Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon's Week 6 team builder of the PBAL Season 6. We are here this week taking on the Orlando Magikarps, coached by the Choice Specs. We have faced before, not in the PBAL, but before, and he is a phenomenal battler. His record this season reflects that, and I think this is going to be really, really good, honestly, a really good match. His team is terrifying. Hopefully I do have answers to it. We will find out, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's go through it. Let's not waste any more time. If you want to check out the Choice Specs and the Orlando Magikarps, links in the description below, as are all of the coaches in the PBAL this entire season, so if you want to see anybody's content at all, easy to find it right in the description. His team is Zeraora, Crobat, Haxorus, Arcanine, Orbeetle, Rotom, Frost, Tapu Bulu, Metagross, Terracosta, and Palisand. Naturally, as you might expect, it's going to be a grassy terrain fight. And as a result, I have a couple of moves that are like, not Earthquake. On this team that are basically high horsepower, because I was like, oh god, I've got Rillaboom, he's got Boogaloo, we're going to be using Grass Terrain all day. I'm just going to assume that I can never click Earthquake at any point, and we're just going to roll with that. First mon, though, is Swampert this week, and I wanted it to do damage. I want this thing to be offensive, and I think everything other than the rock coverage was better if I went special, but I didn't want to use Ancient Power, and so I decided to go physical, mostly for Rock Slide. His entire team is covered by this moveset. 8 of his mons are weak to either Ice or Rock. In some cases, in some cases, aka Crobat, both. But other than that, his team is entirely weak to Ice and Rock, with the exception of Zeraora, weak to Ground, Metagross, weak to Ground, and Palisand, weak to Ground. Not Palisand, Terracosta. I don't know why I said Palisand. I was looking at Palisand. And so I cover his entire team without even the water coverage, just those 3 moves. And so that's why I decided I wanted to run Rock Slide over Ancient Power, just give me a little bit of extra power. It's such good coverage against his entire roster, and I just wanted to run that. I'm Expert Belted because I'm hitting things for super effective damage anyway. I'm not going to take the Life Orb recoil if I don't have to. And then Flip Turn is just good for me to be able to get out, depending on if I can't make the prediction or if I don't want to go for one of the other moves for some reason, one reason or another. Now, the big thing here is his team. The things that this would be really, really good against all get grass coverage. It's super frustrating, but Zeraora gets Grass Knot, Crobat gets Giga Drain, Metagross gets Grass Knot. Everything gets grass coverage. It's so frustrating. Because like this would be so good against his roster, and I want it to be offensive, so I want to run the Expert Belt. But it just, things get grass coverage. I'm like, gosh, dang it, man. But we'll see. We'll see what he brings. I don't know if he's going to bring things specifically to cover the Swampert that would be bad against the rest of my roster. The problem is grass coverage is really good because he's got grassy terrain, so grass coverage is really strong no matter what. So he may just bring Grass Knot on things like the Metagross just to cover the Swampert, which would be really frustrating, but it is what it is. I am running a decent amount of speed so that I can outspeed an uninvested Metagross if he's defensive. And so that's really where that investment comes from, and hopefully this thing puts it to work, because if I don't lose this and it just starts putting in damage after damage, it just pressures his team, it's going to be a really, really good fight. Next up is my Nihilego. This set is weird, and I don't even know if it's optimal. I spent a long time staring at this Nihilego, being like, I don't love it, and then not changing anything, and then doing it, like doing another mock, or like looking at it again and being like, I don't love it, and then not changing anything. Finally, I decided to switch. There was like 16 different items I tried on this. The finalists were like Focus Sash, Theory Berry, and then I opted for Wise Glasses, which is a bit of an odd item, and I've never run it before on a mon in competitive draft, but I decided that Wise Glasses would work here because I'm not specially invested right now, but because I am more defensive, I think being Wise Glasses will allow me to bluff an offensive spread because it's doing 10% more damage than I'm supposed to. So it'll bluff a more offensive spread, so he won't be able to predict necessarily that I will be as defensive as I am. And that defensive investment will allow me to potentially take a Bullet Punch from a Megagross if it's not like max attack, adamant, and item boosting. And it should allow me to take basically any one physical hit, and allows me to take to be able to switch in the Crobat basically no matter what for almost free. Since if it's physical and it goes for like Brave Birds, I resist those anyway, and I can take 3 of them, and I don't have to worry about it too much. So the defensive investment was mostly to cover a couple of those mons, and maybe like take a hit from the Zeraora, stuff like that. And I switched back and forth on what that last move would be. The last move being Acid Spray, actually. It's ironic, the first move on the set. but I switched back and forth on what I wanted that to be. It was Stealth Rock for a while. I don't have a rocker, as you know, because Swampert and Nihiliko are my only 2 rockers, and neither of them have it, so don't have rocks this week. But I didn't know if I needed them. Toxic Spikes are so much better, and I'd always rather go Toxic Spikes than rock in this particular match, so went to Sludge Bomb, which was good for damage, but opted to go for Acid Spray just because super useful, honestly, to just Acid Spray whatever that could switch in on me, like maybe a specially defensive Bat or Arcanine, and lower it by special defense by 2, and then be able to Power Gem and kill, which is really, really what I want to do. Most of his team is weak to rock, as we talked about before. He only resists being like Metagross and Palisand, and Palisand and Metagross both don't want to come in and take a knockoff. Just not at all. So I'm fine with that. Neither of them want to come in as I set up a layer of Toxic Spikes either, so even though they resist the rock, I can just go for Toxic Spikes, get that value, and then get out. Nihiliko's not sweeper. Despite what the set looks like, despite it being an offensive boosting item and Acid Spray Power Gem, it's not a sweeper. It's really, really there to set up Toxic Spikes. Toxic Spikes are paramount to my team's strategy, and they just help me so much in pressuring his team and figuring out whether his bonds like Crobat, Defog, and Arcanine. Next up is Girder, also not a sweeper this week. As you can see, it's like sort of Nihilego number 2, more defensive Nihilego. It is a fully physically defensive Girder. We are not going to any offensive investment at all. Don't need it, don't care about it. We're guts, so that we do get burned for the Arcanine. This is basically my only switch into Arcanine. Then I can just become more strengthy, I don't know, and more strengthy. I didn't say stronger. Anyway, defog on this probably doesn't get clicked unless he's gone for like a defog and he's got rocks up and I haven't managed to get my Toxic Spikes back up. I would rather my Toxic Spikes be up than get rid of his rocks more often than not. That may not 100% of the time be true, but it's true in 95% of situations. Next on this list is Toxic, which is good against Boots Arcanine. Since this is my switch into Arcanine, I figured I wanted a way to hit it. Getting the knockoff on the Boots or the Toxic off on the Arcanine are both really, really good for me to have. Because then once that happens, I'm in good shape. Knockoff also covers all of his fighting switch-ins, things like the Crobat, the Orbeetle, the Metagross, the Palisand. Knockoff just clicks him and get rid of the item. And I love spamming knockoff in this matchup. It's so good here because his team does not want to lose their items and is so much better because of their items that getting rid of them really makes my team just click. It just makes my team run and it would give me a lot of utility in the lane. Next up is my Grassy terrain setter, which is the Rillaboom, of course. We're going Grassy Glide, knockoff, U-turn, high horsepower, shot earthquake. We have Grassy terrain all over the place. And to me, again, spamming knockoff. This thing is banded. Banded Grassy Glide does work against this roster. If I think he's going to go into something that resists it, like the Metagross or Blue, free. And if I don't know what I'm going to do, knock off and switch out. We do have switch-ins to basically everything on his roster as needed, at least for the early game, which means knockoff can be totally free. If he wants to go Arcanine and get the Intimidate, knockoff, or high horsepower, or U-turn. They're all good moves to click. Late game, Grassy Glide just does a ton of work and potentially just win me the game with a banded Grassy Glide. Next up is my Dragapult. Dragapult this week is my sweeper, and you'll notice that it doesn't have a whole lot of coverage for being a sweeper. It's a weird set, but it's completely self-sufficient in the right scenario. So one thing that he may bring is a defensive Wisp Arc. And with Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, Flamethrower, and some coverage, whether it's Extreme Speed or Crunch or whatever. And if I can set up a substitute and he doesn't have Crunch, let's say he runs like Wild Charge, and just for things like Talent or I can just set up a substitute, resist his moves, set up an agility, outspeed the Zeraora, and Will-O-Wisp his entire roster except Arcanine, which you see I have the Toxic Spikes and Toxic for the Arcanine, and he has 0 Ghost resists on his entire roster. Which means if I'm spamming Hex with a max special attack, modest, spell tag boosted, stab Dragapult, nothing wants to take that. And if they're all status, which Will-O-Wisp hits the Metagross, which is the one thing that's and the Crobat, which are the 2 things that are immune to Toxic Spikes, then and the Rotom Frost, then Hex just kills. Straight up. Just kill after kill after kill. This thing can 100% kill everything. Even if I can only get a substitute up and not safely get the agility up, so I don't have to be the Zeraora, I still, if he's Toxic, Hex is going to do a ton of damage. Yeah, he can maybe play rough, Hex, live, play rough again, but I can switch out at that point. Or I can sub as the Toxic damage is wearing up until he's in the range for Hex and then go for it. So, that's really an option. This thing is 100% a cleaner late game. It can be a sweeper on its own right if I get it set up. It'll just take a while. It's not a fast sweeper. It's not a setup sweeper as much. The agility is really just there because the Zeraora does outspeed me, and I just want to make sure I can outspeed that in like a worst case scenario. And lastly, we do have my Durant. Durant is sort of a bailout option as well as an early game, just like do things mon. That's what we're kind of looking at with this Durant set. It's going to be rocking the eject pack. This is a bit of a unique Durant because it doesn't do anything. It literally does nothing. So I can first impression against most of his roster and do good damage. I Iron Head against most of his roster and do good damage. Stomping Tantrum does something to Arcanine, especially if I miss first, but once I've been intimidated, it's not as good. So, I want to get out. I will always want to switch out on the Arcanine. So one time, early in the game, I bring in the Durant, go for whatever move, it really doesn't matter, because I'll outspeed is basically the rest of his roster. And if Arcanine comes in, it shows me that's a switch into Durant, it shows me if it's boost, usually, probably have a Toxic Spikes up by that point, and then I get out. Safe, free, Durant's good to go for later, Arcanine shows me some information, and I get the safe switch into Girder without having to take a move, without having to take a Willow, or make a risky prediction on a double. I just get that switch initiative off of that Arcanine. So, while that is not the most reliable item of all time, because it only works once, and only works if the Arcanine is Intimidate, if the Arcanine is not Intimidate for some reason, Stomping Tantrum does actually do a significant amount of damage. I do actually not mind staying in on that. So I don't mind this item not doing anything for me in that situation. Additionally, if this Crobat does come in and decide to go for Defog, I can potentially just get that safe switch out off of that Crobat's Defog. Once it's used it, right, it uses Defog, gets rid of the hazard, and then I get to switch it into the next Mon. So I think this will work as a Mon, as a set. It's not a sweeper, but it can use First Impression to basically finish off anything at low health so that I don't have to worry about something just dropping to every single... Like, I don't have to trade one for everything, because Durant can always come in, get that kill, come out, and get another one later. So, between the three priority users on my team, Zeraora's speed is not as important. Dragon Attack is having trouble setting up and fully sweeping my entire roster. So, hopefully, this all works, and this team goes well, and we'll see. I know this was a bit of a longer team builder. He's a really good battler, and I spent some time this week really coming up with some creative, unique ideas to try to beat that roster, and we'll see how that goes. I will see you guys all back here later with that battle. Take care, everybody.